The Battle of the Crater has gone into history books as a stupendous failure. It took place on July 30th, 1864. It was a Civil War battle for the siege of Petersburg. Petersburg, Virginia was an important railhead where 4 railroad lines from the south met before continuing to Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy. Most of the supplies to Lee's army and to the city of Richmond funneled through this point. Consequently, the Union regarded it as the back door to Richmond. Henry Pleasants, a mining engineer from Pennsylvania, proposed digging a long mine shaft underneath the Confederate lines and planting explosives directly underneath a fort in the middle of the Confederate First Corps line. If successful, this would not only kill all the defenders in the area, it would also open a hole in the Confederate defenses. If enough Union troops filled the breach quickly enough and drove into the Confederate rear area, the Confederates would not be able to muster enough force to drive them out, and Petersburg might fall. Digging began in late June, but even Grant and Meade saw the operation as a mere way to keep the men occupied, and doubted it of any tactical value. They quickly lost interest, and Pleasants soon found himself with few materials for his project, to the extent that his men had to forage for wood to support the structure. Work progressed steadily. Earth was removed by hand and packed into improvised sledges made from cracker boxes fitted with handles. On July 17th, the main shaft reached under the Confederate position. Rumors of a mine construction soon reached the Confederates, but Lee refused to believe or act upon it. General John Pegram did, however, take the threat seriously enough to build a new line of trenches and artillery points behind his position as a precaution. Grant and Meade suddenly decided to use the mine 3 days after it was complete, after a failed attack known later as the First Battle of Deep Bottom. Union soldiers filled the mine with 320 kegs of gunpowder, totaling 8,000 pounds. The explosives were approximately 20 feet underneath the Confederate works, and the T-gap was packed shut with 11 feet of earth in the side galleries and a further 32 feet of packed earth in the main gallery to prevent the explosion blasting out the mouth of the mine. On July 28th, the powder charges were armed. Burnside had trained a division of United States colored troops under Brigadier General Edward Farrow to lead the assault. Despite this careful planning and intensive training, the day before the attack, Meade ordered Burnside not to use the black troops in the lead assault, claiming that if the attack failed, black soldiers would be killed needlessly, creating political repercussions in the North. Meade may have also ordered the change of plans because he lacked confidence in the black soldiers' abilities in combat.
General Burnside selected a replacement white division by having 3 commanders draw straws. Brigadier General James H. Ledley's 1st Division was selected, but he failed to brief the men on what was expected of them and reportedly was drunk during the battle, well behind the lines, providing no leadership. The plan called for the mine to be detonated between 3:30 and 3:45 a.m. on the morning of July 30th. Pleasants lit the fuse accordingly, but as with the rest of the mine's provisions, they had been given poor quality fuse, which his men were forced to splice themselves. After more and more time passed and no explosion occurred, 2 volunteers from the 48th Regiment crawled into the tunnel. After discovering the fuse had burned out at a splice, they spliced on a length of new fuse and relit it. Finally, at 4:44 a.m., the charges exploded in a massive shower of earth, men, and guns. A crater that is still visible today was created. It was 170 feet long, 100 to 120 feet wide, and at least 30 feet deep. The explosion immediately killed 278 Confederate soldiers, and the stunned Confederate troops did not return fire for at least 15 minutes. However, Ledley's untrained division was not prepared for the explosion, and reports indicate they waited 10 minutes before leaving their own entrenchments. The footbridges that were supposed to have been placed to allow them to quickly cross their own trenches were missing, meaning the men had to climb in and out of their own trenches just to reach no man's land. Once they had wandered to the crater, instead of moving around it as the black troops had been trained to do, they thought it would make an excellent rifle pit and would be well to take cover. Therefore, they moved down into the crater itself, wasting valuable time while the Confederates, under Brigadier General William Mahone, gathered as many troops together as they could for a counterattack. In about an hour's time, they had formed up around the crater and began firing rifles and artillery down into the crater, which was later described as a turkey shoot. The plan had failed, but Burnside, instead of cutting his losses, sent in Ferraro's men. Now faced with considerable flanking fire, they also went down into the crater and for the next few hours, Mahoney's soldiers, along with those of Major General Bushrod Johnson and artillery, slaughtered the troops as they attempted to escape from the crater. Union casualties were 504 killed, 1,881 wounded, and 1,413 missing or captured, while the Confederates had 361 killed, 727 wounded, and 403 missing or captured. Many of the Union losses were suffered by Ferrero's division of the United States Colored Troops.
Ulysses S. Grant would later remark of the catastrophe, "It was the saddest affair I have witnessed in this war."
E tu da dove spunti? Ehi, una colazione appetitosa! È mio, bacio! Ecco, colazione! Dai, Li abbiamo in pugno! Facciamoli fuori! Dai! Dai! È un tiro a segno! Cosa? È un tiro a segno! Si sono infilati dentro un buco da soli! È l'inferno per loro!
asshole. Boom, boom, boom.
So the North and the South were in a stalemate. And they're all like... And this guy had a good idea. He's like, let's tunnel underneath. So, they dug. And they dug. And dug some more. Brought in all the gunpowder. Lit the fuse. These guys were all like, charge! They jumped down the hole and they're like, hey, who brought the ladder? Did you bring the ladder? He's like, no, you were supposed to bring the ladder. He's like, oh, who brought the ladder? And these guys came up like, and then we won! We won! And the guy's like, oh, no.